Welcome to Cosmic Comics, Games and Collectibles, your zen of geekism. We carry comics old and new, magazines, toys, games like Pokemon, Magic, D&D. Want Godzilla, Ultraman, Star Trek, Ninja Turtles, Funko Pops? You'll find it all here. Shop our Cosmic Sound Room and pick up a record or two. Enjoy our Comic Coffee Lounge with a cup of Sasquatch coffee or a delicious menu item while geeking out over a super cool movie on our big screen. Come by and say hello to Maui. Cosmic Comic, Games and Collectibles. Superman loves us, and so will you.
In the flash of a gun barrel on an empty street, I saw all that I'd ever wanted. All that I'd ever love. All that I was. Taken from me. Murdered in cold blood. They'll beg for death before I'm done. Someone once said, before you embark on a journey of revenge, dig 2 graves, a warning about how you can destroy yourself seeking satisfaction. That implies you have something to lose. But if you've already lost everything, grab the fucking shovel.
Wow. Good evening, everybody. I am RJ Carter, Senior Managing Editor here at CriticalBlast.com. And tonight we are looking at an Indiegogo project here that, well, if you're not excited after seeing that trailer about finding out more about this, then you're not an action comics kind of guy. We can get you some Scooby-Doo, some Richie Rich, some other kind of stuff a little bit later on. But this one here, I want to know more about that. So fortunately, we have with us tonight Mr. Jim Tanner, creator of the Dig 2 Graves graphic novel. Jim, welcome to the show tonight, sir.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Glad to have you, man. We talked a little bit before the show. This isn't your first campaign. This is your first Indiegogo campaign, but you've done comics on Kickstarter before.
Correct. So actually, we did Dig 2 Graves on Kickstarter. We did the floppies and a lot of variant covers for that one. For the Indiegogo, we wanted to try something different for the people who didn't get a chance to back on Kickstarter. And we just went straight with a graphic novel for this one. So we kind of cut out the lots and lots of variant covers and just went right to like the heart of it, just getting both issues in one.
Going straight to that trade paperback collection now.
Yeah.
Is it going to do like a lot of trade paperbacks do, where it reprints all the covers in sort of in the back area there? Say, hey, here was everything that came before.
Yeah, we're going to add stuff like that, some extra goodies like, some concept art, things like that. We're also doing like a mini poster set, which includes some of the variant covers. So people have a chance they could just have those if they would just, really want the posters to go with it. And then we'll obviously next go around, we'll have more variants for, people to choose from.
Okay. So what is your role in this? Are you the writer and the artist, or one of the two, or?
I wish I was the artist, because that would make life so much easier. No, I'm the writer and creator of the series. So I started this in about 2000. I think the original concept started actually in 2008. We kind of got rolling in around 2014.
You said it's a series. Is it like a mini series? Because revenge stories often are a finite thing, but you can spin them out into a longer run.
Right. And no, this one is just going to be 12 issues, so it's already planned out, and the story will conclude at issue 12. But each issue runs, we run a little over 40, about 42 pages per issue. So altogether, it's going to be pretty big.
So it looks, by way of the trailer, like it's sort of a female Punisher kind of story, or a Jennifer Blood thing. What is your main character, Miranda Stone? What exactly is her story? What's this origin that kicks her off?
So she's a soldier who's returning home, and she's just getting settled back into civilian life when her family gets murdered. And for her, it's a mystery of who and why. And she has to struggle to find out, who did it. And then, also dealing with, all the problems that she's had, through PTSD, and then, the trauma of, losing, your family. So it is like a Punisher character, but it's very grounded. In reality, we didn't want to go too crazy with what they can't do in this universe. So I've consulted with a lot of friends, who are military, who give a lot of advice. So things that would be realistic for somebody they couldn't do in this world.
Okay, so this is going to be a very grounded kind of thing. This isn't going to be like, I took him off from 600 yards because I had a special titanium laced bullet or something. It's going to be kind of like Kevin Nolan did with the Batman books. He always made sure that everything worked, or the Batman movies, rather.
Yeah, and I want people to feel like this is something that, I mean, obviously, it's still a fantastical story in the sense, but I want people to feel like this is something they're reading that could happen, that somebody could do this to an extent. And yeah, so it's definitely trying to keep it grounded. And I think the story is a little bit more richer for that. Just because with Punisher, I love Punisher books. I grew up reading the Punisher, but after a while, there's only so much you can, do with the character before you're kind of repeating yourself. I always thought.
Yeah, well, as long as there's mobsters, the only twist you can do is it's a different kind of mobster. He sells a different kind of drug, or he traffics a different kind of way, or he's, yeah, you're right. There's only so much you can do with it.
Well, I mean, there's always cartels, mobsters, like you said, drug dealers, but then after that, you're kind of like, guess we're going back to Jigsaw for a while.
I said, well, Mac Bolan and Remo Williams, they've been at this for decades. So
I only know Remo Williams if you're referring to the character. I only know him from the movie from back in the 80s that The Adventure Begins.
Oh, well,
I'm not sure if you're referring to that one or not.
Yep, that's the one. He's the Destroyer. 153 books in the series so far since 1971. So.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty good. Actually, yeah, I only knew the movie series, or the movie, I guess, that never became the series. So.
Yeah, well, they actually did do a pilot for television. It aired once.
It was Fred, or was it Fred Williams? Fred Ward, I think it was.
Fred Ward was the movie.
Okay.
Joel Grey, and I don't know who they got to do Remo for the pilot for the proposed television series, but he definitely had like flock of seagulls kind of hair, and the Joel Grey part of Master Chun was played by Roddy McDowall.
Wow!
So, so Roddy McDowall playing an old Korean martial artist master.
Sounds very 80s just for that right there.
It was very 80s.
Yeah.
So this book here, and I'm going to share the screen if I can find where my mouse cursor went across my multiple monitors here. There it is. This is collecting the first 2 volumes, which is a good chunk because they're 40 pages each. So you got minimum of 80 pages in this, give or take some extra pages that you're adding on.
Yeah, so actually, I think we clock in at about 85 total story. We're most likely going to push it to about 100 for the book itself once it's done, with extras. Like I said, we might post some of the variant covers that were in there, some concept art, and then if we depending on where it's at this point, we have another book in the works. We might put a few sample pages in there too for people, just so they have something that might also interest them. So
let them see what's coming in book 3.
Exactly.
All right. So, who is your artist on this?
So my artist is a guy named Von Randall, and he's really, really good. I really enjoy his work. So I guess a little background on the story. Like I said, I started this several years ago, and the first book actually came out with a different artist, and we kickstarted that one, and it was funded, but we had a huge delay on getting it finished. And unfortunately, I had to move on to a different artist who could capture deadlines. So And yeah, and so for me, I didn't want the book to look different, so we had to go back to the beginning, redo book 1 and book 2, so the art would match for both books. So that's kind of why we're where we're at right now.
It's a smart
Um,
decision, though.
yeah, I don't want to confuse people. Like, why does book 1 look like this and book 2 totally different? So, and Vaughn's stuff's so amazing that he just enhances anything he touches. So
You've got your featured tier here is the Dig Two Graves graphic novel. Perfect. It's the book. I love campaigns that stay simple. It's the book. We got a print. What's the print? Is it the purple and orange sort of a filtered look here?
No, that's the cover. If you scroll down a little bit, I think you should see it. It's one of the variants by Aaron Bartling. He's doing some stuff for DC, I think Ninja Turtles right now. I know he did one of the Ronin covers. And so that one was really popular with people, but we made it a Kickstarter exclusive for the actual variant cover. So I wanted to honor that. So we just made this a print for people who necessarily couldn't get in on the variant floppy, but they'll still have a chance to at least have one of the copies.
That's a heck of a print.
Yeah, he's also an amazing guy. Like I said, he's putting out some amazing work right now.
Now, I will say what I really liked is as I'm scrolling down to see the print, I ran out of tiers on the on the right side very, very early.
So like I said, the Kickstarter had a lot of tiers, and I wanted to kind of streamline this, make it simple. I didn't want, especially with a graphic novel, I didn't want to have 4 or 5 different covers to just a graphic novel. Or trade paper, So basically, I kept it simple. We got the actual, the comic itself, and then some options for some either 11 by 17 posters or maybe some mini prints. And these were kind of some of the ones we offered in variant form, so people have a chance again to have a chance at them. And then the kind of the fun stuff, the chance to be in the book or the chance to have a role in the book. So we put those in there as well.
Yeah, and it's so easy to streamline a campaign now because I think Kickstarter and Indiegogo both have the add-on capability.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you can just say, here's the book. This is the core. Buy the book, and it's the only thing to worry about. You don't have to say, well, do you want to get this mix or that mix, and try to find the right, the right raisins to peanuts ratio that will please everybody in every bucket. They can just buy the book and then check out and you can add on this, add 2 of these, 1 of those. I'll take 3 of those, and get 1 of these for Aunt Sophie. Just throw it all in the cart at the end there.
Exactly.
It's so much easier.
Yeah, and with Kickstarter, we kind of had a wide. I want to say we had almost 10 variant covers, ranging from the sexy variant, the nude variant, like the action variant. Basically, I'd go to different artists and I'd say, give me your interpretation, and I just kind of let them give me what they wanted to give me.
Yeah.
And and we even did a cosplay variant, so we had quite a bit. But like I said, I enjoy that, but it's also just a lot to keep up with. And like I said again, for the next one, the next floppy, definitely be more variant covers because I do enjoy getting them, and I know people like looking at them. So, but like you said, yeah, this one just keeps it nice and simple. And I did want to say that we're gonna send out all the information out tonight, but obviously I'm still getting used to Indiegogo, and we're trying to build an audience. But for anybody who backs within starting tonight up through Sunday night till midnight, we're going to add an extra print. And if we get over 50 backers in that time frame, we're also going to throw in some extra trading cards. That's all, just anybody who backs.
Very cool. So there is there's a deadline on this for all the early birds.
That's right. So for anybody within starting, like I said, tonight, we're going to post it. And then it's going to let it run through the weekend for everybody.
Very cool. All right. Well, I will have to mention that when I repost the video to Twitter after this. Let people know the replay is up and available.
I appreciate it.
You've got a PDF version. Yay.
Yeah.
A lot of people like the PDFs. And only $8. What's the shipping? No, I'm kidding. There's no.
Surprisingly cheap for that one.
Yeah. I'm waiting to see somebody try shipping on a PDF. Well, it takes effort to click the button.
Yeah, and like I said, there's people who just like to support. I mean, I've supported my fair share of campaigns where I wasn't necessarily super interested maybe in the story, but I liked the team. I liked that they were, I like supporting people who are trying. And I'll always at least do a digital for people like that. And if not, try to at least get the floppy. So, and that's kind of what that's when I know some people just don't have space for comics at this point. So they just like to kind of have them, read them, and, move on.
Now you got mini poster set. This is the mini prints, is more like the 8x10 sized,
Yeah.
the comic book sized, for $15, and then you've got the 11x17 version of them. I'm going to scroll down further in the hopes that we're going to see them.
So yeah, I believe I put that on there. It's also the little, yeah, there you go. I know it's not a very big picture. I probably should have blew those up a bit more.
It's bigger than the index picture though, so that's why I wanted
Definitely
to find it.
And those, and like I said, a couple of those were variant poster or variant covers. From the left, it was kind of the, not anime, but close-ish to that, very colorful. Then you got like the action jumping out the window one. I love the one in the middle by an artist named Vincent Venticola. He's done a few for me from some of the other books, and I just love his style. And then next to that is Nathan Schwartzy. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. He's been doing a lot of variants for DC right now, especially like Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy, those kind. It's a very unique style, so it's very much in that style.
And the more he keeps doing that, the harder he's going to be to get.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure at this point he's probably out of my price range. I seem to get guys right before they hit big, and then I get one good piece from them, and then they move on. It's like, I can't afford them now.
You're sort of like Good Luck Chuck. Everybody should just come to. Can I do a variant print for you, please?
Yeah. I mean, it'd be great. I just need to prefer it if everybody like bought something, then they got their next big break.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and like I said, it's just kind of like a nice mix of what's available. Like I said, we had a few others. We had the cosplay variants, and then we had the nude and non-nude version. And I may incorporate that into this campaign, depending on how we're looking.
And you have a you have a draw in tier, and that is, you have two drawn in tiers.
Yeah, so there's just the actual, the cameo, the show up, in the background, and then there's the actual speaking role. So for that one, whoever does that one, if they do, we're going to kind of ask them, what would you prefer? Would you prefer to be somebody in the book, like that's a good guy, that's a bad guy, that gets killed, or, and we'll try to incorporate that. When I wrote out the next scripts, I kind of have a few people in mind who could, kind of be tweaked for that part. So we let people kind of have the option.
Now, when you get somebody drawn in, do you name them? I mean, it's like, just say if Bob wants to be drawn in the book as a bad guy, does another bad guy say, Bob, grab your gun, so that, Bob can take the book to work and say, look, I got drawn in the book. And when they say, how do you know it's you? Like, look, they call me by my name.
I hadn't actually thought of that, but I mean, depending on who they pick and the the setup that they're wanting, we could definitely look into that. Obviously, the book does deal with different nationalities, so it might be odd if, like, Joe Smith is hanging out with people who have more, ethnic names of some sort, but definitely can at least, tweak stuff to fit that if somebody really wants that. I'm not opposed to making somebody happy who's willing to go for a tier that big.
I was just always wondering how that worked, because it's like people had different styles, and if somebody's got a very cartoony style and you're being drawn in as a cartoon, it doesn't really look like you. It looks like a cartoon that could sort of kind of be you if you wanted to say it was. So I didn't know if it was like, a credit at the back of the book saying, thank you to, Joe Smith for his likeness on page 17.
Oh yeah, like I said, if for anybody for those tiers, they would get like a definitely a special shout out above anything else, just because they were willing to go above and beyond. I've seen Vaughn, because the original book, the very first one, the one that was drawn by a different artist that I had to redo, we did have somebody back that tier, so they're actually going to be featured. And Vaughn is pretty good at capturing people's likeness. So I'd like to think if anybody does that, they'll instantly recognize themselves. Where, if it was me, I'm obviously going to stand out in that book. So I don't have to worry about it too much. But yeah, for anybody, like I said, Vaughn's really good. You'll know who you are without much effort. But again, if it's something if somebody really wanted that, I wouldn't have any problem incorporating that for them.
So the story, any revenge story that involves, an entire family getting wiped out and somebody going on revenge is going to be pretty dark and gritty. But how dark and gritty does it go? I mean, in the 70s, your average 13-year-old could read The Punisher, and still get not nightmares and not freaked out parents and stuff like this. What's the level of darkness that comes with Dig Two Graves?
When people ask me that, I say it'd be the equivalent of a rated R movie. I reference movies like Mad Max or more recent movies like Kill Bill. If it's something like, if you've seen those, it would have that level of violence. Maybe not so over the top, say Kill Bill, but something to that extent. Like I said, the sex nudity in the book is fairly mild. There was that one clip in the trailer, but overall, the sexuality of the character, specifically the main character, we're not trying to turn her up to it like a pinup or anything like that. So
she's got other things on her mind than that anyway. So
right, and the story, it also branches through several characters. That's why it's a simple revenge story. It shouldn't run too long, but there's a lot of story arcs playing out. Not just her, but the quote unquote villains have just different story arcs going as well that we're hoping is just as interesting. So those will all play out as well. And I'm hoping people find that interesting. But yeah, it does get dark. I would say the darkest is more. It delves into emotion, how people deal with things emotionally. Like I said, I worked with some friends that were soldiers who served, who deal with PTSD, and they gave me their stories in a way to say, hey, this is how it's portrayed in TV and movies, but it's not always accurate. This is kind of how we, or at least their own personal stories. And I definitely try to incorporate that into the character to make that more authentic for people.
Right. Mike Walters in the chat. Hey, RJ. You're finishing setting up your live stream. Cool. Thank you for popping over. Definitely we'll be over to check out your live stream later tonight at the mic stand. For people who are looking for something to watch after this one, head over to the mic stand at Mike Walters' channel as he covers comic book news. So, Jim, the violence wouldn't be anything then like what we would see in a Preacher graphic novel where it was, like half of faces hanging on to jaws and stuff like that. Well, maybe it is.
I love Garth Ennis, and so I'd like to think that he's one of the people like when I write it, I hope I can kind of emulate, maybe not necessarily in the style, but just that kind of feeling. I don't know if we're going to go that graphic. There are parts coming up that may have something like that, but like I said, I wouldn't say this is going to be too over the top. Like I said, if it's something you'd see in a rated R movie, that's probably what you would, you'd feel comfortable here. I don't think you necessarily have to have over the top gore to get the point across.
So 12 issues. This is kind of telling me that you've got this plotted out chapter by chapter. You know where it's going each step of the way. It's how it's going to end.
Exactly. So I've written out the next few issues, but everything's been outlined to issue 12. So the story, the biggest points are already, set up, and I just need to go in and just finish writing out the scripts and then get them to my editor, and then hopefully, finish those up and get them out to people.
Okay. So with crowdfunding, and with having 12 issues, the biggest thing that I've always seen impacting a crowdfunded series is scheduling.
Yeah.
Because it's, if it's 7 to 8 months between a book, and it's got to be, you have what my friend Mike Tierney calls the expiration of expectation, where it's like, at the end of the book, you're really ready to read the next one. Hope it comes in, next month. 3 months later, it's like, oh yeah, I remember reading this. Yeah, I got to watch for that to come out. 6 months later, it's like, what was that again? How do you keep the hype going from book to book?
Well, I'm learning as I go with this. So I'm hoping that, we're just going to keep the people informed what we're doing. I want to try to have other books available in between. So it kind of keeps people's interests, at least with what I'm doing and the people I work with. But I mean, yeah, that's the end game, I think, for all of us here working the indie comics scene, the crowdfunding, is just how fast can we get something out and how to keep the interest going. And I think the best we can do is just stay, active with the people who enjoy it, and try to give them even just little bits of content as you move along, to keep their minds, interested on it.
Yeah. I know the folks that do Miskatonic High, they're up to 11 issues published so far, and they come out once a quarter. But they also had 5 issues done before they launched their first one. So,
yeah, and unfortunately, as the creator, it falls on me for financial responsibility. So I can only go as fast as I can afford at the moment.
and
when I start,
the whole crowdfunding is for is to get the money to do the project. That's the that was what it was designed for. And now it's sort of like, well, I've made the project. Now I just want to recoup my losses. And like, I've had people say, well, why don't you just put it on Amazon then if it's done? If you paid for it and it's done, just put it on Amazon and keep selling it until you made your money.
Yeah, I could see that. For me, I like to fund, at least in this case, I wanted to have everything done, or at least damn near done, before we kicked off. So that, because again, my very first Kickstarter, there was such a huge delay from when it ended to when it actually shipped, and I didn't want anybody who actually might have returned to feel like, okay, I don't want to wait another year plus to get my book again, because it was a lot long. So I had to make up for a lot of distrust people might have had. So I made sure, the book was done and it was pretty much ready. And book 2 was the one we kickstarted recently, and it's actually for the most part done. I had to go back to the letterer. We're going to update a few things on the last like 6 pages, and then after that, it's just off to the printer. So, and then but everything from that went to what it needed to go to, what was final. What I left to pay off or pay off someone and go to the printers, things like that. So it covered that, but we didn't, pull in enough to necessarily say fund the next one completely to push on. So, when I'm doing Brian Padilio's numbers, then I'll be able to, have books in the can going down for a few months at a time. But until I get that audience, just got to get it out as fast as we can, best we can do.
So how far are you on to issue 3? Because, that's the one you're going to want to launch once 2 and the trade paperback have been fulfilled. Or into fulfillment. Yeah,
so I actually had some discussion with some people wondering how quickly you should go into your next, crowdfunding after your last one ended. So, should you here's book 3, to, like a month later, here's book 4. And I'm sure there's some people who would really, enjoy that, like you're saying, because they really want to read the next one. But I know some people are worried that they're going to feel like people are going to get oversaturated with what you're doing. But to answer your question, book 3, it's with my editor right now, and then it's going to go to the artist, and he's pretty quick turnaround. I think if we wanted to, we could probably push that out in a month and a half, as quick as he is.
Yeah. I think it's okay to launch your book while you're in fulfillment, as long as you've passed the level of fulfilling your first book. If they know that, he's fulfilled, he's fulfilling the second one. I haven't got it yet, but he's launched the third. I can give him the money for the third because I know I'm getting the second one. If it was your second book, I would say wait until everybody's got their book and then launch. But because it is that trust level that you've got to build up. Because you are the creative staff, you are the publishing team, you are the distribution channel.
So and that's kind of like with the Indiegogo. I was debating whether, because like I said, with the Kickstarter just ended a few weeks ago, and I didn't want people to feel like we were trying to double dip on them. So that's why I wanted to make it a different campaign from what we did with Kickstarter, so people who didn't get a chance to support would feel like they were getting something unique to what they were supporting, not just the same thing again on a different site. So that's kind of why, like I said, we streamlined it, and we're and I'm offering something different. I'm offering the graphic novel, which we didn't do on the Kickstarter. So, and that's really what it came down to, is I just wanted people to feel like, hey, there is some difference. And like I said, so far it's kind of a slow trudge so far, but hopefully we pick up here shortly.
It always is.
Yeah.
And knowing that, why did you want to get into making comics in the first place, Jim?
I loved comics since I was a kid. I remember getting my first Spider-Man book, I want to say like 88, 86, somewhere in there. And then, I just was all in, especially once Image launched. I mean, that was peak, like early teens for me. So, and that was just a huge comic boom, and I was all about it. But one of the things I always loved doing as a kid is writing. I used to write comics as a kid. Like I said, they weren't very good. They were like 4 pages. So, but, I liked to write them, and then I used to like to try to draw them. And then as I got older, I started to do like screenplays, things like that. And then as I realized I had stories I wanted to tell, obviously getting a screenplay made is, it's extremely difficult. And I realized I could tell my stories through a medium of comics. And, you get the great visuals, and it, for me, it was just, rekindling my love for comics. So, and getting a chance to do what I always wanted to do.
So are you going to do the entire thing on crowdfunding, or are you, because this is really good quality work. I mean, I haven't read the story, obviously, but
Yeah.
I'm looking at the artwork, and I can tell the flow of the story through the pictures. And if you can do that, then you know that the story is being told well. Are you going to crowdfund the whole thing, or are you going to approach like, a Boom Studio or a Dark Horse or something with it and say, hey, here's what we've proven, run with it?
So there's a thought for that, and that's one of the reasons why I did also want to have the first book redrawn. Looking at submissions, they pretty much say your art team needs to stay the same, which makes sense. You don't want to go out and pay some pro for your first book, and then once you get accepted, go out and pay yourself nothing and draw half-ass. So
yeah.
But yeah, so that there's thoughts to that, and I am looking into that. A lot of just getting this all done recently has kind of consumed my time for it. And then once the Indiegogo is finished, then I'm going to look into those options and see what we can do. Like I said, the art is great. My hope is even if nobody likes my story, the art's so good nobody notices. So, but I'm hoping they enjoy the story, obviously. So, and I think it'll click with a lot of people. Like I said, it's a bit of a slow burn at times, but it's again, the story's richer for it. The characters, you're going to get to know them, and you're going to have your own opinions on them, not just good guy, bad guy. Nobody's good in this book, or nobody's at least truly good, and nobody's truly evil in that sense.
Yeah. One of the things I've noticed about your main character here, exacting revenge, I don't recall any picture of her carrying a gun.
So, there's one there.
There she is carrying a gun.
Yeah.
But
so it's still early on in the story, and the guns and all that they will come into it more so as the story progresses. And if you read obviously this book, you're going to see her using them, but just shooting stuff is fun. But I don't want that to be the only means of getting things done. There's a lot more action, exciting. I can't think of the word I'm trying to think of, but basically, more exciting page layouts for other things too. So
I mean, she went in and did it with her bare hands and kicks and broken necks, and it doesn't look like she fared very well in it either from this scene here.
Yeah, and no, so like I said, that's actually from after the family was shot, so she's being rushed to the hospital in that part. So, but yeah, the character isn't invulnerable. They're not 80s like Commando, Arnold Schwarzenegger, those kind of movies. Like I said, when I say it's based in reality, is that the character has limits that any human would have. So the reality is in what could somebody actually do. There's not going to be no crazy, one woman army against 50 people type of thing.
Yeah.
And the cover, I just wanted to point out, obviously that's the main cover. Unfortunately, I didn't post that for this one, but the artist on that one is Wilton Sand. It's right there. The beginning of the video is actually the part of the cover. That one's a different one. I wanted to try something different with the graphic novel. If you look in the video section right there, that frozen frame there, that's actually right from the main cover. Yeah, with by Wilton Santos. He's a great guy. I think he's working on Star Wars stuff, Kenobi books, I believe. So I love his art, and he's actually doing all my covers. So he's actually way ahead. I think he's on like 4 or 5 issue 5's cover. He's just getting them out of the way early.
Very nice. And it's good that you're going to be consistent with the cover artist all the way through as well. Yeah.
So everybody's locked in. Like I said, we got a great colorist, Kevin DeCastro. I got my letterer, Robin Jones. Everybody's, they're in, I got them all in for the long haul. So nothing will change on it. So if you like it, that's great because you're going to get the same quality each time.
So if this crowdfunds all the way through, I mean, you're crowdfunding all the way to issue 12. When's that last book coming out?
I couldn't give you an estimate. My hope moving forward is as we build our audience, each crowdfunding pays for the next and will allow us to roll into the next one quicker and quicker to the point where we may already be on 2 issues ahead of where we're actually at before the next one. I'd like to get at least 4 issues out a year for just, myself, unless, we had, like I said, we did get published by somebody. But that's the hope. And I know, especially with 12 books, it seems it's very ambitious as we're doing it. But I do believe we'll pick up steam. We are getting a small following. Like I said, unfortunately, Kickstarter crowd and Indiegogo crowds don't seem to mix based on my experience.
Oh,
So
especially the last 2 days, man.
what's that?
Especially these last few days.
Oh yeah, I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Oh, okay. So Kickstarter hired, and the announcement was made on her Twitter page that, hey, I've been hired as the new Kickstarter comic book consultant. And then hundreds of people who were Indiegogo crowdfund people found out they had been blocked by this Kickstarter person. And there had been, conversations saying, hey, if we were doing Indiegogo, should we expand to Kickstarter? And like, well, why leave money on the table? And now they're like, that's why they hate us. So,
well, I might have a rude awakening when I go back to Kickstarter. I don't know.
Well, yeah, if they let you do it on Kickstarter, then keep doing it on Kickstarter. You did your first 2 there. I'm sure they'll let you back in the door.
Yeah, I hadn't heard about that, but I'm not. Yeah, I'd have to look into that. I'm not sure.
But so is the plan? 1 and 2 at Kickstarter, trade paperback. 3 and 4 at Kickstarter, trade paperback at Indiegogo again.
I'm not sure. I might keep if this does pick up and people enjoy it, because you're getting a large amount in one. We might keep doing that. I like the store option that Indiegogo offers. That was another reason I kind of wanted to, so that way I could leave it active until we launch the next one. And then my hope was maybe just to stick to Indiegogo if the campaigns were rolling well.
I should spite promote you. I should spite promote you to Twitter and say, hey, this guy left Kickstarter to try out Indiegogo. Make him stay. Give him a reason to come over.
Yeah, like I said,
so I don't care where people go, but
I'm so out of the loop. But I do feel like there's like a difference between Indiegogo crowds and Kickstarter crowds, or at least the way people feel towards them. And I haven't quite figured out what that is, but I definitely get kind of the vibe that there's a difference. So, like I said, learning as you go, unfortunately. So, but do what you got to do.
It's. I almost said it's like Catholics and Protestants, but it's really more like, Southern Baptists and Northern Baptists. They're really close, but there's splitting hairs on certain things. But yeah, I'm impressed so far. I like what I'm seeing here with this story.
I appreciate it. And like I tell people, for me, I'm a big fan of those. I love movies in general too. And I really love those old like 70s, 80s revenge movies. Some of the ones that like I love would be like Rolling Thunder. It's a little lesser known one from the 70s. It's a great movie. Mad Max and Miss 45 and all those, even the Grindhouse ones. I wanted to take those kind of movies, those just gritty, raw, especially those 70s ones, and then take that kind of story, make it, with a modern twist, but keep that vibe, that feeling of just despair at times and like that just gritty rawness to it. And I wanted to do my best to bring that into to like a more traditional, newer setting, I guess.
Yeah, I was when I saw the title, Dig Two Graves, and then I saw the female protagonist revenge story. The first movie that I clicked to was the classic Grindhouse B movie, I Spit on Your Grave. Have you seen that one? Yeah. I was like, ooh, that could be like real dark.
And if anybody's wondering, I definitely avoid sexual assault. That was kind of a big one, I think, in that era of like those types of movies as like the catalyst. And nothing like that here. So, yes, get that out there. But yeah, definitely though, that kind of very grindy feel, or especially I Spit on Your Grave. Yeah, for sure. So, and like I said, I hope I brought that to this comic, and or at least make the story interesting enough where people just want to see where it's going. So, like I said, I don't like traditional hero versus villain stories. So I'd like to think of people as just, they're people. There's no really good or bad. And then in that grand sense, everybody's got their flaws. So like I said, I think we're doing pretty good so far.
Yeah. So I would expect if she's out killing people, and if they're not necessarily completely bad guys, she's going to have to start kind of living underground a little bit, because the actual good guys The paid good guys are going to be, looking for her at some point.
Yeah, and the story kind of delves into that. The whole, I think one of the first things I thought of is, you know, when does it go from revenge to just straight murder? When does it, no longer justified even in your own mind? And we play with that issue more so in a couple of the next issues as the story progresses. And yeah, definitely, you can't just, go killing people and expect there to be no ramifications. And some of the characters that who will be doing that are actually introduced in this book, volume 2. They show up. So, and then there's stories, like I said, the plan is to have multiple storylines rolling at one time, and then they all kind of culminate, at the very end.
Those are the best kind, because that's what happens in a movie. You change points of view, you triangulate the actual plot through the eyes of all the different characters.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, do you have eyes on doing other form of media to tell this story once you get rolling?
Oh, you mean like you mean like Netflix or something like that?
Yeah, chase those Netflix bucks.
I don't have any kind of future plans like that. I just wanted to, make a good comic. And don't get me wrong, if somebody came knocking and said, "Hey, we want to throw some money at you to do this," I'm all for it. But right now, I just wanted to tell my story, and the medium of comics, I think, gets abused too much. People trying to just throw out a story in the hopes that lands something like that. And yeah, I think you lose something when you do that.
And you can tell when a story is, when a first issue is a Netflix pitch.
Yeah.
Especially when you don't get a second issue, because, it's just, there was nothing more there to the story to tell.
It's funny because I was talking to somebody, like I said, it's the original idea and the concept for this, I want to say it was about 2008. So it's been in the works for a long time. Because I was working on another series at that point. And the idea of a female protagonist was fairly fresh at that point. And by the time I finally got it out there, now every other movie or comic has a female protagonist, which is great, but makes me not as original as I once was.
Yeah, but it's still different. First of all, she got hair on both sides of her head, and it's her natural color. So that's two things that automatically set her apart from a lot of the female protagonist stories.
Yeah, like when people ask, I say, yeah, we don't sexualize the character, but the character herself can be, considered, traditionally good looking.
Yeah.
But she doesn't go out of her way to be a pinup. But at the same time, I'm not going to, make her overly strong and compensate for something like that.
She's not going undercover dressed as a hooker to get next to some guy that she can kill. I mean,
So it's a fine balance of keeping somebody grounded. She's not super strong. She's a female, so she'll have a disadvantage, and she speaks about that. In strength, but there are ways to compensate for that. So
yeah, which would be her military training.
Like I said, she'll carry certain weapons with her. You may not be able to outpunch somebody toe to toe, but you cut somebody deep enough, they'll bleed out quick enough. So
absolutely, and in the right places. So
exactly. So like I said, and that was kind of where the direction of the character was. Keep it to where if you saw somebody like that, you wouldn't have thought there's no way somebody could do that. There's several women I know who could easily pretty close to meet those kind of descriptions.
Yeah, and then of course the acquisition of the weapons themselves sometimes. You're like, where did you get a howitzer, sir?
Yeah, it's all things that you could legally buy at any gun store, depending on what state you live on.
Yeah, if you got to drive across the border, then you drive across the border. I always love it. It's like, we're going to need weapons. Well, we can't buy those. Well, it's okay. There's a deal going down tomorrow in this alley I know about. Like, oh yeah, because there's always a guy selling, a truckload of AK-47s downtown.
Yeah, I think the old movie cliche in the 80s was they'd break into like a gun store who always had like a secret back room loaded with like military weapons. It's like, I didn't realize gun stores just had secret back rooms for all that space.
Yeah, where do you keep the good stuff?
Just keep the miniguns back there in case, somebody really wants one.
Yeah. I don't know what you're talking about. Walt sent me. Oh, closed, and then you never saw these. Oh, yeah, that was good stuff. All right, well, I've definitely got to click the follow on this one and get in on this. This is a flexible goal, so we all know that means you're publishing no matter what you make now.
Yeah, like I said, because we were already funded through Kickstarter, so the book itself is going to publish. And then for these, pretty much once you take into account the cost of printing the graphic novel or the mini posters or whatever. It's all going into the project. So any funds for this just go right back to the artists and the colorers and the letterists,
Okay.
to get the next issues done. So it's all going to a good spot at this point.
And the thing that sets this apart from the one that was done on Kickstarter, again, that would be what makes this one special.
So this is, like I said, volume 1 and 2 combined. So it's just the graphic novel, as opposed to Kickstarter. We just did the floppies.
Oh, okay.
So you could get book 1 and book 2 in floppy form, along with like variant covers of issue 2. But there was no combining the two. There was no graphic novel. It was mostly just issue 2 at this point, and a chance for book 1 if you were catching up.
Okay, so the graphic novel it's an Indiegogo exclusive.
It is.
That's the selling point. And then of course the prints are also made for Indiegogo here.
So some of those were on Kickstarter, but they were Kickstarter variant covers. So in this case, the prints, there are only prints for the Indiegogo campaign.
Yeah, they were covers in Kickstarter, but now they're prints on Indiegogos.
And there were a few that weren't even available on the Kickstarter, so in any form. So a few of those prints are exclusively just for this Indiegogo.
Gotcha.
And the other print I'm going to be announcing tonight, and the trading cards are also exclusive to Indiegogo. They weren't done on Kickstarter.
So there's going to be more added to this campaign as you go along here.
Yeah, like I said, so starting tonight, running through Sunday, all the way till Sunday midnight. We'll do it on the West Coast. We're going to offer to the next 50 backers another free print that I will post all the pictures for. And then it's either going to be, if we reach 50, anybody also who within that 50 will also either get a set of trading cards we have, or there's a variant to that print, and I'll see if people are interested in, which one people have more interest in, and we'll decide at that point. Sure. And then anything over that, maybe we'll throw in another nice set for all the people who are jumping in on here this weekend.
All right. Well, Jim, I think you got a good looking book here. I think you got a very good shot at success with this title. It's different from anything else I'm seeing crowdfunded right now. I mean, it's not like I'm saying, gosh, it's a story that's never been told before.
Yeah.
But it's not werewolves and westerns and superheroes. Oh my. In fact, I don't think there's anybody that's doing a revenge story right now.
I think I saw something revenge based, but yeah, everything doesn't. I would say a grounded type of story, as opposed to where there's supernatural elements or superhero powers, and I like those things too. So my next few books might actually feature something with those, but the other one we'll wait and see. So,
all right, well, Jim, I want to thank you for bringing your project here on the show tonight.
I appreciate it.
Is there anything that people need to know about the project that I didn't ask? Because sometimes I skip over stuff.
I don't think so. Like I said, people, they know what it's about. I'm always open if people have questions. You can reach us on either Sketchy Nuke on Instagram, on Twitter. I got my link tree on there, so people can just click on one and get all of them. And I'm always open for, I listen to my audience. If there's something they like, and then there's a whole lot of people something they don't like, I'm always willing to make concessions for people, since they're the ones who are paying the bills. I'm always going to make sure that they get what they want.
Customer service from a comic book creator. Somebody needs to tell Joe Glass that this is actually a thing. All right. Again, thank you for bringing the project onto the show tonight. Folks in the chat, we appreciate you watching this. If you're catching it on the replay, the link to the project is right below to Indiegogo. Click that, follow through with it, and pick the tier you want. Put the add-ons. Remember, if you get in there before Sunday, you're going to get some special stuff that will only be exclusive to you. So you want to be in there early. And as always, we just hope that while you were here, you had yourself a blast.